shout out to Icy Amphibian. So shout out to our brother Icy. Always like Icy. He always sends me some nice DMs. He's just a good guy overall. Gets to travel all over the place. So here's what Icy has. And then we'll connect this to our outline. It's all going to make sense. You guys know how it goes. Got to start off with something. So Icy has this. He says, Jasmy community, are you excited for the upcoming Jasmy chain? Well, yeah. Especially like understanding that we want to see progress. We want to see them sticking to their guns of the white paper and all that stuff. The Optimism stack, called OP stack, gives you the ability to deploy your own roll-up chains that use a layer 1 blockchain to host and order transaction data. So a roll-up in the name given to a blockchain that piggybacks off of the security of another parent blockchain, specifically OP stack rollups, take advantage of the consensus mechanism like proof of work or proof of stake of their parent chain instead of providing their own. For example, Optimism stack change. This parent blockchain, of course, is Ethereum. At the end of the day, why is this important? Because this is a solution for Ethereum scaling, which for a lot of people, that sounds like an oxymoron, but it's a real thing. OP stack chains require 4 different components for deployment. It's useful to understand each component before you deploy your chain. As you guys know, we always talk about smart contracts, especially with what Stellar is going to be doing with Sorbonne. But this is OP. OP stack chains use several smart contracts on the layer 1 blockchain to manage aspects of the rollup. Each OP stack chain has its own set of layer 1 smart contracts that are deployed when the chain is created. I know this is a lot verbatim. I just want to read these last 3 things real quick, and I'll give you some of my own research. But this is good. Sequencer nodes. OP stack chains use sequencer nodes to gather proposed transactions from users and publish them to the layer 1 blockchain. OP stack nodes, like Ethereum nodes, have a consensus client to determine the list and ordering of blocks and of transactions that are part of your blockchain and execution client in order to execute new submitted transactions and to update the state of the blockchain to reflect these new transactions. This part about the batcher, let's get into that for just a second. The batcher is a service that publishes transactions from sequencer to L1 blockchain. The batcher runs continuously alongside the sequencer and publishes transactions in batches, hence the name, on a regular basis. And then last but not least, the proposer. The proposer is a service responsible for publishing transaction results to the layer 1 blockchain. This allows smart contracts on the layer 1 to read the state of the layer 2, which is necessary for cross-chain communication and reconciliation between the state changes. God, that was a lot, right? All right. So the point is, this guy had a great question. And no, this is not the guy that we're talking about earlier. Name Scott. That's not the same guy. Could be. I don't know. I don't think it is. He says, so how does this take place in conjunction with the existing Jasmy token, or is it instead of like replacing Jasmy or whatever, right? Great question. Icy Amphibian responds back. Very cool. Of IC do that. He says, in conjunction with the existing Jasmy ERC20 token, which allow you guys FUD, for example, you can bridge your Optimism token from Ethereum ERC20 to Optimism mainnet. Is there something to explain that? Is Optimism going to allow scalability? Well, yeah. The Optimism mainnet is Ethereum scale, basically. It's a roll-up. So when you do that, it will bring you to something like this. And again, guys, I'm not saying, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. You don't go out and try to do this right now. This is just an example, like, for the future, right? But you would connect it all through here, and then it would all happen, right, for the future. Don't do this now. So now you get that. We are still going to talk about the whole thing of this layer 2. Because guess what, guys? It's coming, and it's coming soon. And we need to address some things. And if anything, we'll address a main key thing that I feel as though doesn't get mentioned enough. So now, shout out, of course, to the one and only Mr. Neo X Tricks. He mentions a few of the catalysts in regards to this. So number 1, catalysts of the Internet of Things with Jasmy chain layer 2. The integration of layer 2 by Jasmy brings substantial benefits to the Internet of Things. This results in improved scalability, true, reduced transaction costs, faster transaction speeds, enhanced security, better adaptability to new functionalities and services to its blockchain without requiring a complete overhaul of the system. That sounds good because, I mean, as the saying goes, like, you don't want it to be unrecognizable where it defeats the purpose of your use case. These advantages position Jasmy as an appealing solution for large-scale deployments of connected devices. What connected devices? Don't overthink it. Come on, guys. IoT, the Internet of Things, all those particular devices that we've been seeing. That's quite a few different devices, not just, these sensors that are in front of a autonomous vehicle or electric vehicle, right? Like a Tesla or something like that, or what Honda and Sony is going to do for the future. No, there's quite a few different things that are IoT related. Offers more efficient data management and real-time communication for various IoT applications. So, how so? And why is this so significant? Well, before getting into more the nitty-gritty about this, back to the whole thing of optimism, because we know that this is going to be Jasmy's layer 2 blockchain solution with a combination of AI, right? So for one, Optimism does in fact scale Ethereum by utilizing its technology called Optimism rollups to increase, of course, transaction throughput and, of course, to just that, lower the cost without compromising, security or decentralization. At the end of the day, some people have asked, how does this work? Well, I see Amphibian kind of shared his own 2 cents on that as well. And basically speaking, I'm going to share a little bit of what I gathered as well. So you have to keep in mind, Optimism does rely on 2 key, what they call assumptions. What are those assumptions? By default, you have to keep in mind most transactions are in fact valid, but transactions in a roll-up, on the other hand, are very well assumed to be correct. And of course, it does speed up what they call processing. And there's no need for an individual to verify just that, each one of those particular ones. Of course, people are going to challenge fraud, right? Is there any fraud going on and so on? And rightfully so. Keep in mind, if a transaction is actually fraudulent, anyone can challenge it during a designated challenge period, like literally quote unquote challenge period. The challenger submits proof of the fraud, and if their claim is valid, the roll-up is reverted and the offending transaction is reversed. This is back to the whole thing of when people have stated, well, Jasmy and Hedera, they kind of share something where you have this verification process in regards to double counting. That's a reference back to that. True. What about maintaining Ethereum compatibility, right? Like, kind of like the whole thing of what Casper's doing, right? Like, can we bring in people from Ethereum but not slap a big charge on them? Because at the end of the day, why would they want to come in just because it's faster? You're going to still throw a big hefty fee on. Well, similar to that, Optimism does use the same Ethereum virtual machine, which is EVMs. We know about these, as the mainnet. It basically means this: the applications and smart contracts that are developed for Ethereum can run on Optimism with minimal modifications. This is great. This means that, some of the people saying, is this why Jasmy selected Optimism? I think so. Because, I mean, there has been criticism, like, why didn't they go with this particular blockchain? Why didn't they go with that? Again, keep in mind where Jasmy's market cap is and how much they actually bring in. Optimism might have been that answer, that particular solution. So it's not like overspending and, so on and so forth. But minimal modifications means that they don't have to hire a whole bunch of extra people to accomplish what they need to do here soon, right? This makes it easier for developers to build and deploy dApps on Optimism. Well, does that mean that when we get our super wallet and some of those other things, that can be accomplished a lot more sooner than we thought, or be right on time with what the Jasmy management team is looking to accomplish? I think so. This will leverage the benefits of scalability while having access to the security and decentralization of course, the Ethereum blockchain. Now, what about some of these other benefits or key benefits to Optimism itself as far as a scaling solution? Because let's face it, there's other ones that can scale. And if anything, scale way more. And no, we're not going to talk about BSV, right, in that regard. But the point is this. 3 key things. There will, in fact, be faster transactions. Thank God, right? Because Ethereum is slow as you know what. Transactions on Optimism are significantly faster, of course, than Ethereum mainnet. True. Often completing within, and this is the key part, because even though we don't have the exact data on this, we can look this up later. But at the end of the day, all you need to know is this. The difference is completing transactions with in seconds instead of basically hours. You know, that's a huge difference. What about lower gas fees? Well, of course. Ethereum always gets the criticism of those high Ethereum gas fees, especially at the height of a bull market. It's just ridiculous. I'll never forget actually paying $300 in gas fees for just a little bit of a bag of some garbage meme token. And you want to know which garbage one that was? It was Wolverine. Sorry, Wolverine fans, if you don't like hearing that. But it will significantly reduce the fees on Optimism. And it will also allow it on each individual transaction. All right. What about enhanced Ethereum usability? Listen to this part for a second. By increasing transaction speed and lowering the costs, Optimism itself does make Ethereum more attractive for a wider range of use cases and opens up possibilities, of course, for mass adoption. I mean, for some people are saying, like, I wish this particular project like Jasmy would just pick the blue chips. I wish that too. But you also have to keep in mind that they may be looking at it from a perspective of their budget and where they're currently at. And hence why I always mention in the research, and you could go back to it yourself, of like, could there be something for quant in the future? The answer is yes. We reestablished that. So we are scaling up to the next thing. Got to look at this kind of like how you look at your crypto journey, right? We're on a journey together. This is not a sprint, right? It's like a marathon. This is Jasmy's particular journey that they're going through. The journey of what? Scalability. You know, taking it to the next step. Does it mean that you just settle for that forever? Maybe. But if they want the option to take it to the next level, well, things like quant through ISO TC 307, those particular standards and working groups would be taking it to the next level. But we're not even close to that right now. I will count my blessings. I think Optimism, for where we're at now, is a great solution for where Jasmy needs to go. All right. Another thing I want to bring you guys to is this about the patent, because it is the highlight of the night from the title. So let's take you to that. Here it is, straight from Neo X Tricks once again. Lots of great info from Neo. Give him a follow. He deserves a follow. He can be followed over at Bana817. And let's get into it. So the patent itself, this is a good analogy that he dropped, so I am going to read a lot of this verbatim. It says, imagine your information on your phone, like your messages, photos, basically akin to treasuries you want to keep secure. Sadly, today, these treasures are not well protected. That's true. Now, with all these smart devices connected to the internet, we realize the importance of keeping this information safe. This is where the Jasmy patent comes into play. I don't like this, because before we get more into this, you're going to see a Medium article from Jasmy's Medium that was published yesterday, and why that's so significant. Goes to mention this. Think of this new method as a super virtual safe that utilizes blockchain. Jasmy has devised keys for the safe, much like having a special magnetic key to open it. This safe can encrypt your information with this special magnetic key, or even a second key, because we've seen numerous examples of the second key, if you want to be extra secure and place it in the blockchain. When we talk about second keys, again, back to layman's terms, because also Neo X Tricks is using examples in layman's terms to make it more easier to understand. It's kind of like the concept of two-form authentication. Why do you do that? an extra layer of security, right? Like no duh, right? When someone authorized, like a guardian, wants to see what you've put in the safe, they need to have a public key and the special magnetic key to unlock the safe. This intelligent safe method not only keeps your information secure, but also provides heightened security to all of Internet of Things, IoT. It could even extend to computers and gadgets to make them even safer. So this is wonderful. This is beautiful because you understand that when it comes again to Jasmy, you're not limited to just one particular area of utility use case. Multiple use cases, multiple different things, Internet of Things. Obviously, we're not talking about finance democracy, but we will get to the part tonight about storage here in a bit. This guy, Be Rich, posted this yesterday, because I believe, yeah, that is yesterday. Jasmy received a patent for the production and use of cryptographic keys. So what is this? Well, here it basically is. It's this right here. And like I said, published one day ago, Jasmy Inc. patent for the generation and use of cryptographic keys. Now, does this really stand out? I think it does, because it gives you an idea of the pathway forward for why we talk about the whole thing with the super wallet and why that is such a big, big deal. Getting into this, I'm not going to get into every single part of it, but you do see the original registration of the patent. Title of invention is called Terminal Equipment Information Processing System and Program. Data registration was March 1st of last year. Who are the inventors? Kazumasa Sato, Sunao Morita, and Takashi Hagawara. I'm familiar with Hagawara and, of course, Sato. Has a background in this development, and then we'll break down some of the notes I have why it's important. This is important. Listen to this for a second. Historically, terminal log information containing personal data has been stored with insufficient encryption. However, the ubiquity, if I pronounce, probably not talking right when it comes to that, sorry, mispronouncing that, of IoT has underscored the importance of securing this log information. To address this, we devised a secure storage method by recording terminal log information on a blockchain and introducing a novel key generation method. Now, you got to keep in mind, when we talk about storage, we talk about like Web3 storage. This is where also Polkadot comes into the mix. But the details of the new tech, you will see that this new tech involves a program and a terminal device capable of generating multiple keys or second keys using the first key and information from specified software. Now, you got to keep in mind, does Jasmy already have software? Yes, they do. Of course they do. How have we seen that? Well, we've seen that in examples of, for instance, Vio and Avita. Yeah, absolutely, right? So logs containing operational details can be encrypted using either the first key or second key and then recorded into the blockchain. And of course, this example is all in Japanese. That's okay. But another aspect allows the creation of a second key using the first key and user terminal information to encrypt and record logs of terminal device activities in the blockchain, I should say. Now, I'm not going to read all this. I want to get down to this part real quick. Images of use in their products. Processing device operation records in Jasmy Secure PC. Again, back to the whole thing of the software. Managing confidential information and authentication logs during user authentication, including biometric authentication. Remember the examples that we saw with Mofiria? Log management of IoT devices, handling important information logs in applications such as wallet apps, or in this case, what Jasmy is going to do here soon with the Super Wallet. And I get a part about what is blockchain and what Jasmy is looking to do, but I think it's important to notate some of that. But why? Well, I'm going to get to that here in just a second after I scratched my nose because it's driving me crazy all of a sudden. But basically speaking, we have to keep in mind that the significance of this particular patent and why I'm going to bring you some of the highlights. So that part where it talks about the traditional way of logging, okay, and how there's problems with that. Well, this supplies a solution. And that solution basically is enhanced security for terminal log information. Three key things in that regard are addressing a critical vulnerability, I should say, in traditional storage methods where personal data in terminal logs was often not adequately encrypted. You're going to be able to employ blockchain tech for secure storage, making it highly resilient to tampering and also for unauthorized access. And this does very well through this patent, invention, where you want to call it. It will introduce a novel key generation method that allows for multiple second keys, further strengthening security measures. What happens in the future when you see solid use case for what Jasmy's trying to do, and then later on down the road, where other projects want to implement what Jasmy has already accomplished, invented through patents and so on? Will that be an example of maybe a royalty kickback? Could very well be. What's an example of what we've seen in the past? Well, apply that to, like, for example, what BSV has and so on. You know, like what Craig Wright is pounding home and so on. Royalties are a real thing. It's not just about music and so on. It actually exists in regards to blockchain and DLT. So you have this thing about versatile key generation. It does go beyond conventional single key authentication to create multiple second keys using the first key, of course, and the user or terminal information. But it does involve flexibility in encryption and decryption processes, enhancing security for diverse use cases. There's, of course, going to be a lot of blockchain-based logging that's going to ensure immutability, accountability, and so on. I don't want to get into all that. But one thing I definitely want to point out to you guys is this. What about the broad applications across many different fields of like different domains, right? Well, this is going to allow the potential for various domains, including even the secure PC platforms, for example, Jasmy Secure PC, to have more user authentication processes, such as those biometrics, more management for the IoT devices, and the handling of sensitive data in regards to wallets, apps, and other applications. Hence, why I think they put in this application last year, because they know where they're going to go with the super wallet. You have to have everything in place for there's the most ultimate security before the product is finished. You know, see what you want. This is where they get criticism. But wouldn't you rather have a full product before, or instead of just having them winging it? I think so. Another thing I want to get into is this, and it's a comparison. Let me just pull this up real quick, of Jasmy with Filecoin. Now you may be wondering, like, why would you want to make that comparison? Well, you keep in mind I hold a bunch of Filecoin. I already researched it, and one thing that's always stood out for me when it comes to Filecoin is it's a premier general purpose decentralized storage market, if you will. So I wrote out some things here, and I'm going to share the screen. It's like on a little spreadsheet, if you will. And I want to share this with you. It's just real quick. But basically, it's like this. And, you know, you got to keep in mind that basically if Jasmy addresses a critical vulnerability in traditional storage methods where personal data in terminal logs was often not adequately encrypted, I know it sounds real technical, but it's going to get good, and employs blockchain tech for secure storage, making it highly resistant to what, guys? Tampering and unauthorized access. Doesn't Filecoin? Yeah, Filecoin. I can't believe I mentioned in Jasmy's same breath as Filecoin, but doesn't Filecoin have a similar use case? And if so, how does Jasmy compare to Filecoin? Now, some people are going to say, huh, big difference, night and day difference, Jasmy scam. Listen to this. Filecoin and Jasmy both offer decentralized storage solutions. True. with blockchain tech, but they have distinct focuses and approaches that differentiate themselves from each other. We're going to do a comparison. Here's the comparison. And hopefully you guys can see this. If not, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. So number one is this. Jasmy is features, primary focus, secure personal data storage and, of course, management. We know that. Filecoin, like what I just also mentioned, general purpose, decentralized storage market. What does Jasmy do? What targets users, individuals and businesses concerned with data privacy? Filecoin targets users that reach a wide range of users and decentralized apps needing data storage. Right, very, very true. Uses a smarter, more efficient technology, in my opinion, compared to like BTT. Some people are going to say, well, it's a lot like BTT, but it's way better, in my opinion. It's quality or quantity. All right, what about Jasmy in regards to some of the key features? Well, this particular storage type, we know that they're going to go with this Web3 storage solution with Polkadot. How so? Excuse me. Decentralized servers via IPFS. Where on the other hand, Filecoin has global network of storage providers with miners. What consensus does Jasmy have? Well, they have POA, proof of authority. Where on the other hand, Filecoin has proof of space-time, no, not the space-time continuum, which is called POST, and proof of replication, which is called POREP. Okay, what about the features with Jasmy? Well, token utility. Used for data storage, access, and transactions. Back to the whole thing of this patent about Filecoin. Well, they're used to pay for storage, retrieval, and network services. So Filecoin, you can look at like kind of like if you're selling, like you're doing like a rent to own on a container or something like that, or like a pod. A pod, you're never going to own a pod, But this is used to the native coin token to pay for the storage, retrieval, and network services. Look how it's very similar. Used for data storage, access, and transactions. But Jasmy, in my opinion, really stands out because instead of just only having one utility layer for storage, you're actually like benefiting the local economy. You're creating a whole thing of data democratization and finance democratization. All right, back to the subject of scalability, because we know that they're going to go to Optimism. Jasmy can potentially scale farther than we think, but there is scalability concerns with, of course, what? Proof of authority. Where on the other hand, with Filecoin, we're going to be critical about some of this stuff. Filecoin is specifically designed for high scalability and data availability. But I don't want to be too concerned with this at the moment. Back to the whole reasons of why I said in the future, due to ISO TC 307, those standards and those working groups, we can scale way more higher in the future if we go that route. Or if Jasmy Management goes that route. I should say we, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, what about this real quick? The features. Data security. Jasmy, let's compare it. Strong emphasis on encryption and privacy. Yeah, you literally see Sato, Hagawara, I would say even Tadashi Morita, putting a lot of emphasis through their patents and their inventions to get this done. Filecoin, on the other hand, does have a focus on storage, efficiency, and reliability. Again, they're really key, and I'm not saying that Jasmy is better than Filecoin. Of course not. But when I get to the conclusion of this, you're going to find out why I even mention it at all in the same sentence. All right, back to this for a second. What about, for instance, I think I need to expand this. Yeah, hold on. Let's expand that a little bit. What about regulatory compliance? Yes, let's pull that right there. Well, Jasmy has an emphasis on compliance with Japanese data and protection laws. How do we know that? Because they are already regulatory compliant in a country that has stricter regulation laws than here in the United States. They were the first to do it in Japan, hence the term Bitcoin of Japan. Where on the other hand, Filecoin, for instance, You have more global focus with less emphasis on specific regulations. Is this why the SEC went after Filecoin? I'm going to be honest, I think that's the answer. So, in conclusion, before we wrap this up and do this whole thing of this comparing and contrasting, you have to keep in mind that there's all these key differences, but it's the target markets. For Jasmy, you have a target market that targets individuals, businesses seeking secure personal data storage, while Filecoin aims for a broader market, including those specific dApps and enterprise use cases. Very true. As far as storage infrastructure, Jasmy does very well leverage IPFS, where on the other hand, Filecoin has its own independent network of storage providers. True. As far as consensus mechanisms, Jasmy uses, of course, proof of authority, which offers faster transactions but may have scalability limitations, at least for now. And Filecoin uses post and po-rep designed for scalability and data integrity. There is a data security focus for Jasmy, which really stands out, where I'll give Jasmy the win over Filecoin. Jasmy prioritizes encryption and privacy, where on the other hand, Filecoin emphasizes storage efficiency and reliability. And of course, we already mentioned the whole thing of the regulatory compliance. In summary, in regards to the comparisons, if you're the type of guy like, I only want to choose one, which I don't think this is fair, but if you're that type of guy, if you choose Jasmy, you prioritize on secure personal data storage, compliance with Japanese data regulations, and faster transactions. If you choose Filecoin, you prioritize in general purpose storage needs, global scalability, which sounds really cool, and data availability and reliability. At the end of the day, I choose to hold both because I recognize the bigger picture of things. And to close things out, I want to share this with you. And this is straight from the Filecoin page. So let's pull this up for a second. This is why we put so much emphasis on some of this stuff. So at the end of the day, Filecoin has this emphasis on, obviously, storage. Jasmy doesn't have a full emphasis only on storage, but if anything, they could capitalize on that particular market. Does that mean that Jasmy will be worth more in dollar value than Filecoin? No, of course not. I would not say that. But you have to keep in mind that Filecoin, for instance, you did see all-time highs on April 1st, 2021, which was 3 years ago. How much? $237.24. Does that mean that Jasmy is going to be worth that? Hell no. Of course not. That wouldn't add up. But what does add up is this. Just kind of like what we talked about earlier in regards to the Casper segment of the night. IBM teaming up with Casper for accomplishing one common goal, AI governance. That market is going to be worth over $7 trillion annually, if not higher. Now, back to the whole thing with Jasmy. Jasmy can get a piece of the pie, if you will, when it comes to this with Filecoin, because of what it's doing, currently speaking, trying to go to the Web3 cloud storage solution. So for Jasmy to even take part of that market, and especially in Japan, where maybe Filecoin doesn't have prominence over there, I think is something that a lot of influencers and content creators should talk more about, instead of just the focus of data democracy and all the typical things that was talked about when it comes to Jasmy, the super wallet, the lockup, and so on. Never dismiss the research when you look more into these particular things, and say what you want. This is where I hold a lot of Filecoin. I'm not trying to brag about that, but it's true. I do. Why did I go all bat crazy with Filecoin? Because during a crypto winter, right, which was, I think, April of last year, I turned 3K into, in 3 days. I'm sure you guys remember that expression I made last year. And I said to myself, man, if I was able to do that then, what about if I get back into this and hold it long term? Well, Filecoin is a long-term hold, but I'm not going to marry it. I look at Jasmy from the perspective of, wow, they can capitalize on this specific market, especially when it comes to Japan. We could talk about data privacy laws until we're blue in the face. But one thing that we should pay more attention to also is where people will store the data. Personal data lockers also equals storage. And storage also has value in itself. And we've seen this with numerous examples, not just Filecoin, but we also seen it, for example, shout out to Tim Shea with Flux. And there's other examples. There's a whole bunch of other ones out there in regards to storage. Storage has value. Jasmy being able to reach out, create patents that are significant for this long-term approach, it makes me that much more impressive on what or impressed on what I have and why I hold it. At the end of the day, I can't give you any financial advice, and I never will. Just present information. If you're the type of person who's in attendance tonight and says, Jasmy scam, please lay out to me how it's such a scam other than just looking at a chart where it shows that it's significantly down. Because one knows something, to be fair, you should be looking at other projects that are also part of this whole thing, a crypto winner that's significantly down as well. There's a lot of them. Cardano. You could apply a whole bunch of other particular ones. Heck, XRP since a while back in regards to when they were attacked by the SEC. I mean, that's changed. But there's a lot of examples of things being 80 to 90 to 95, 99% down that still have solid use cases that are not scams. It's just crypto winter came involved. And my point is, I'm going to still cover Jasmy. I still believe in it. I'm still obviously invested into it. And I'm really excited to see what happens here within the next few months, especially when it comes to the lockup, the super wallet, scaling to the layer 2, and even especially like what we talked about tonight with this Web3 cloud solution. Say what you want. They are sticking to their guns, and they're getting to the point where things are being accomplished from the white paper. Could they do a better job in regards to their marketing? Of course. But if you look more into it, Japan itself could always do that. They have a history of not having great marketing. The products speak for themselves. The services speak for themselves.